season series concluding September 7th. 4.5 games currently separate these two, but could it be deja vu all over again? The Bo Sox looking to avoid becoming the first major league team in history to finish second to the same opponent 6 straight years.
This offense of Boston's not going to stop.
And the Yankees have opened this baby up.
It started back in December when the Yankees outbid the Red Sox for prized Cuban starter Jose Contreras. The boss doled out $32 million to land the services of Cuba's hottest export since the cigar, a move which prompted new Red Sox president Larry Lucchino to dub the hated Bombers the Evil Empire. Since those first shots were fired, this season's version of the Sox-Yankees rivalry has been one to remember. It started in May with a stumbling Yankee team coming into the fence having dropped 6 of their last 7, but were still tied for first with the surging Sox. They left town having taken 2 of 3 and holding a 1-game lead in the East. The two teams would flip-flop the top spot for the next 2 months until an epic series in New York on the 4th of July weekend. Though the two teams split the series, the big news coming out of the Big Apple that weekend was the war of words between the boss and the ace. Unhappy with Pedro's inside heat, Steinbrenner fired off some chin music of his own.
Well, I don't like it. Unfortunately, they're both okay, but you can't like that. I'm not going to say anything about it because I don't know what was going through the man's mind, but he seems to be doing that a lot.
Unfazed by the boss's tough talk, Pedro fired back saying, Georgie Porgy, he may buy the whole league, but he doesn't have the money to put fear in my heart. Which brings us full circle to this weekend series. The same man these two teams fought for in December will toe the rubber tonight in Boston, facing the team that handed him his first big league loss. Jose Contreras looks to help keep the Red Sox in that all-too-familiar second place in the American League East. But the sizzle to this weekend series doesn't end here. Saturday features a matchup of aces with the Red Sox killer Andy Pettitte and his 1.72 ERA against Boston this year, taking on the boss's favorite Bo Sox, Pedro. And as if that wasn't enough, Sunday could be the final Fenway appearance for a certain tall Texan with ties to both sides of the historic baseball rivalry. Tough to call it a rivalry. The last time the Red Sox won a World Series was 1918. Back then, Babe Ruth was their star pitcher. Ted Williams was just 2 weeks old. Since then, the Yankees have won all 26 of their World Championships, winning 38 American League pennants to Boston's 4. Let's bring in the Red Sox first baseman, Kevin Millar, who joins us from Fenway. Kevin, why is this year going to be different if you're a Red Sox fan?
Well, you got a bunch of dirtbags and baseball players, I think, in this clubhouse that are just don't know any better. You know, myself, Billy Miller, Ty Walker, and Ortiz, and the new guys, I just don't think we know any better, and we don't know anything about that Bambino curse. Well, that's just it. You've been on the outside looking in at this rivalry for most of your career. Now that you're there, do you understand the magnitude of it? It's amazing. It's one of the greatest rivalries, I think the greatest rivalry in sports. I mean, I grew up in Los Angeles loving the Larry Bird, Magic Johnson series, but now with the Red Sox and the Yankee series, there's nothing like it. Yeah, but the thing is that Larry beat Magic and Magic beat Larry. You guys got to beat the Yankees one of these days, one of these years. Well, this is my first year along with this organization. I think we got a bunch of new guys here, and this will be the year, I think. But when you look at the Yankees now, is there that air of invincibility that maybe wasn't there in previous months or even previous years, if you've spoken to your teammates about that? Yeah, I mean, the Yankees have dominated this game, and this goes all the way back, obviously, to Babe Ruth and, I mean, DiMaggio and Mano, and so there is definitely an aura when you see the pinstripes, but there's no doubt about it that this year's team with the Red Sox, we feel that we're as good as any team in the big leagues, and we have a lot of confidence, and we feel that we can beat anybody at any time. Okay, but let's hone in on the Yankees, and if you're going to pick out a weakness, what would it be? I obviously think it's their bullpen. I think that's the weakness that hasn't been there in the past. They had Stanton and Jeff Nelson coming out of there, and it seems like they can go to anybody with Carsey was healthy, but I think their weakness is maybe the bullpen. I think, obviously, Bernie Williams isn't as healthy as he's been in the past. So, I mean, when he's hitting 330, 5+ home runs and 120 RBIs plus, he's a little tougher. So, you know, a non-healthy Bernie, I think Jeter's been through some injuries this year. I don't think they're as strong as they have been in the past. Do you include Mariano Rivera in that, with that bullpen that's not as strong as it once was? No, I wouldn't include Mariano Rivera. I still think he's the best out there. What about the weakness with the Red Sox? If you were going to single out one thing, what would it be? I think, obviously, I mean, our bullpen's had some issues this year. I think Theo's done a great job at you know, getting it solidified to where I think we're a lot better than we have been earlier. But I think our bullpen, you know, has had some question marks, and maybe 1 through 5 at the same time of our starting pitching has had some question marks. But you're starting to see us turn the corner, and I think that's where our weakness is now becoming a strength. You got Jose Contreras. Would you rather face a guy you haven't seen, or would you rather face a guy you've seen many, many times? Well, me individually, I'd rather face a guy that I've seen many, many times, because that's the kind of hitter I am. I'm a guess kind of guy. I kind of got to prepare myself. But the second time around, like you saw when we played the Oakland A's and the Seattle Mariners, was a little bit different when they came over here after we saw him one time. But Contreras, we've seen in spring training once, very little, and you know, it'll be, you know, he doesn't see us, and we haven't seen him. How long did it take you to get around the bases with that inside the park home run? Did somebody time you? Holy cow, I don't know, but I know it had taken an awful long time, because I am not a fast twitch muscle guy. It took you a little bit longer than maybe Nomar would have gotten around the backs. I think, yeah, Nomar would have been standing up, and I think I would just have been around second. So, yes, Nomar and Damian Jackson and all the fast guys a lot slower than they did. Yeah, Johnny Damon probably would have been at second as you were going to second for the first time. He would have been around there the second time, knowing as fast as he is. No doubt about it. They actually played the Chariots of Fire, dun, 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 in slow motion, but everybody was saying that was in fast speed. Hey, good luck tonight against Jose Contreras. We appreciate your time. Thanks for having me. All right. That's Kevin Millar, 22 home runs this year. That's a career high. We welcome in ESPN baseball analyst Peter Gammons, who joins us from Fenway. Peter, just got word that Manny Ramirez is out of the lineup tonight. He's got stomach bug. Is this a 24-hour bug? Can you update us?
They don't know. They think it may be the same thing that Pedro had last week, and even when Pedro made his start a couple of days later, he wasn't the same. So, I mean, there's a chance that Manny could miss 2 or 3 games this weekend. He's apparently very sick.
Let's look at the Red Sox this year, and are these Red Sox different than Red Sox of previous years when it comes to facing the Yankees, having what it takes to stand up to them down the stretch?
Well, I think the question's going to come in their pitching. I mean, I think they certainly have the offense to do it. I mean, I think the makeup is the best of any Red Sox team I can remember. I mean, I heard Kevin Millar talking about all the third bat. Well, they got a lot of guys like that. I mean, that don't seem to care a lot. And, you know, they understand, because they haven't been in Boston and they haven't been in New York, that, I mean, history doesn't really play. We talk about it, but it really isn't very relevant. I mean, all anybody would have heard last year was that the Anaheim Angels have never won a postseason series, and they clobbered the Yankees in the first round. So, I mean, that's the way the Red Sox look at this thing. But that said, I mean, we're still talking about a starting pitching staff that has to get a strong performance out of Lowe, has to have a lot out of Pedro Martinez, and has got to get better work out of the pitchers in front of Young Kim. I mean, they got Sauerbeck and Williamson to help Timlin and Embry. Thus far, they've struggled in this ballpark. If they turn it around, they could have a very good September.
Peter, we're looking at the pitching matchups over the weekend. If you were going to handicap those matchups, starting with Contreras against Derek Lowe, who you single out as maybe the key ingredient for the Red Sox down the stretch, who has the edge in these 3 games?
Well, I'm not sure there's any edge. I mean, Pettit is a great pitcher. The Pettit-Pedro matchup is a great matchup on Saturday. Also because Pedro's pitched very well against the Yankees, but the Red Sox have he's only gotten 4 wins in his last 17 starts against the Yankees, mainly because they haven't played well behind him. But I'm fascinated by this Contreras. I think as Lowe is the key to the Red Sox in September, I think Contreras could be the key to the Yankees. I still believe that he can be a dominant starting pitcher. I'm looking at his stuff, his last start with the 2 different fork balls that he's got, the fastball and the slider. I was talking to Euclides Rojas, the Red Sox bullpen coach, who was Contreras' pitching coach in Cuba and on the national team. And he believes it, too, that this guy could really end up being a great pitcher down the stretch. And I think that that's one of the fun things to watch, because I think if the Yankees are going to be a world champion again, I think they need to get more innings out of their starting pitching and get less out of their bullpen in front of Mariano Rivera. And I think Contreras is a key to that.
Thank you, Peter. Enjoy the festivities.
I will certainly enjoy it, Dan.
That's Peter Gammons joining us from Fenway. Once again, Manny Ramirez is going to be out of the lineup for a stomach bug tonight against Jose Contreras. The Yankees have won 7 of the 13 games played so far between these two, but there's a lot of baseball left between these two over the next 2 weeks.
And assuming one doesn't sweep the other in the 6 games they've got coming up, just as important, their matchups with the Orioles and Devil Rays. Both teams play both of those teams twice still to come in September. Still to come here on this 90-minute edition of SportsCenter.